Hello and welcome to Outlaw Bookseller with me, Stephen Andrews, writer, bookseller, collector. And this year I've had a Tolkien epiphany. I've never been a massive Tolkien fan. I read The Hobbit back when I was a kid in the early 70s, and the whole sort of thing passed over me really. When my friends were reading Lord of the Rings, I was reading SF, I was reading Arthur C. Clarke, Philip K. Dick, Harlan Ellison, Alfred Bester, all the cool people. And the whole Tolkien thing never did it for me. I didn't really get into sword and sorcery or fantasy in any way, in a big way, till I discovered Michael Moorcock, who for me is the master. And, you know, Tolkien sort of passing by. I've sold many hundreds of Tolkien books in my nearly 40 years as a bookseller. But increasingly I've been drawn to his artwork, the iconography of his art. And this year I've sort of really tried to rediscover him, because I read Lord of the Rings back in the early 80s and was never that fussed on it. I rewatched the films and really enjoyed them. And really, I think what's got me is the totality of his vision. And this isn't unusual. This grabs lots of people. And the way that he focused on the sort of world building, the creative part. And the quality of the world building, I think it still sort of juries out for me. And I've reread some of Fellowship this year, and I was enjoying it, but purely in the sense of escapism. But I have enjoyed getting back into his iconography and his art particularly. So there's been some unboxings on the channel, and I'm doing some more. And I just thought I'd show you. A while ago I got this lovely Smorg notebook there from the Bodleian Library, which is really nice, and that's my notebook I use for the channel. And you'll see there's a little tote bag under there. This is very small, by the way, and if you watch my series Science Fiction Collector Diary, the very first one, I reveal this, and I wasn't expecting to be so small. And of course there's great illustrated books out there. I managed to get this a while ago, which is the edition I had when I was younger in paperback, and this is hardcover. You know, I've sort of covered it. It's not a fantastic nick, but and it's a book club edition rather than an unwin one. But I really like that livery and that artwork, even though it's not Tolkien's. So I bought that for some nostalgia's sake, and so I had a decent 1-volume edition. And as you can see, just as a reading copy really, as you can see, I've got the standard ones with the Tolkien sigils on there, which I think are the nicest ones. There have been several generations since then. Those are still in print. There's a new set of 3 which are jacketless. They're just boards, and I'm not so fussed on them. This is my partner's copy of The Hobbit from about 20 years ago. She was more of a fan than me, but I've sort of annexed it really, and I love the eagle for my library. And a while ago I bought a standard edition of The Hobbit, and this slipcase facsimile of the original edition. Of course, that has a different text. If you're not aware of that, the text had to be reworked and rewritten so that it actually fit in with the mythology of Lord of the Rings when that was published, and that's quite nice as well. So, because of course, if you want to get an early printing or a first, you know, you're talking serious money. So we're going to do some unboxings today. Oops, and see what we've got. I am not going to become a Tolkien completist. That way lies madness. I know some people are, because what I really cleave to is literary science fiction, and my true sort of fantasy thing is sword and sorcery. If you look on the channel, you'll see some of my sword and sorcery videos. So today I'm going to unbox 2 things. I'm going to do the Tolkien Treasury, which has been out for a few years, and it's a handsome little half slip box there. Of some of the shorter works. Isn't that absolutely lovely? And I just really like the beauty of these. They're just beautiful books. So these are an indulgence for me, beautiful books. I work in a bookshop, so I get a discount, so it's nice, so I could get these relatively cheap. So I'm just going to snip this open. So I haven't actually read these, of course. The only one of these which came out during Tolkien's sort of earlier life was, is it the Tom Bombadil one? I think that came out between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, didn't it? So let's just have a look. Let's pop that off there. And yeah, I've done a few videos about the sort of limiteds, or are they limiteds or are they not, videos of the Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings, which have come out the last few years from HarperCollins Voyager on the channel. And you know, we've had some discussions about that, which has been interesting. Just get the shrink off and cast it aside for a moment. And yeah, very handsome. I've got a set like this of C.S. Lewis's Narnia books. Of course, he was one of the Inklings alongside Tolkien. The most interesting one, in my opinion, is Charles Williams, you never hear anything about. And I don't think Williams's books are in print, but they're fascinating. They're kind of occult thrillers. So let's take a look at these. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So here's Smith of Wootton Major, and these are tiny little octavo hardcovers, illustrated end papers, plain boards, gilt on the spine. Really, really nice. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? And of course you can get all these individually. Very, very nice. And as I say, I've not read these, so these are going to be interesting to sort of delve into. This is the one which appeals to me the most, Rover Random, and look at that, beautiful. I just love his pencil work is just great. It is his art which has sucked me in, actually. So I guess if they do more editions with Tolkien's art, there's quite a few out there already. Lovely decorated end papers. His art really is great. In a way, it reminds me of Lowry, which is interesting. It's just struck me, Lowry sort of stick figures of the industrial north of England, Manchester, what have you. Really, really nice. And I see you can get all these individually. They're about £10.99 a piece. Nice creamy paper, actually. Creamy in terms of the colour. The actual weave is relatively rough. It's not smooth. I don't like paper which is too smooth and too silky because it tends to be thin and tends to rip. So really, really nice. Farmer Giles of Ham, one of the more famous ones with the dragon on the cover. It looks really knockabout. Lovely. So this is a nice little prezi you could get for yourself if you're a Tolkien fan and you haven't discovered the sort of more marginal work. Look at that, isn't that great? Really, really good. Superb. Excellent. That's embellished by Pauline Baines. Embellished, not Tolkien. So she embellished that. I love the word embellished. It's great, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely lovely. So there we go. And finally, The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, of course, pops up in Fellowship of the Rings. There we are, illustrated by Pauline Baines again. So yeah, and this obviously is Pauline Baines as well, so it's not Tolkien, but it's Tolkien's imagery. And you can tell they're not Tolkien because they're sort of too rich and professional in a way. Tolkien, was a true artist, he had his own style. Absolutely lovely, isn't that beautiful? Really, really nice. That looks like an ex libris there, we could write the name, not you do that of course. So let's have a look. There's an introduction here which I'm really looking forward to reading. I love all the history of the publishing of Tolkien's work. And yeah, look at that, 62. Interesting, I thought that was in between. So we'd have to have a look at that. So that's the set, and very, very nice. This retails for $44.99, I believe it is. So I got a huge discount because I'm a bookseller. So there you go. Very, very nice. My only problem with these is there's no way I'm going to put them. I generally don't like really little books in hardcover. These are quite small, but this was so beautiful. I could not resist it, given that I'm in my current sort of Tolkien phase. Now we'll move on to something else. Now this is much more my jam, as they say. This is Beowulf, the Tolkien edition, of course, deluxe, and it comes in a plain box. You could say it's a tray case, but it's just a plain cardboard box, really. It's got the design of a tray case, but it's not like a presentation tray case, really. So, and this has been out for several years, and I did get annoyed with myself because I meant to buy the standard trade hardcover, which is out of print with a jacket and what have you, and I didn't. And of course, Beowulf is the basis of Tolkien's professorship. It was the work he did on Beowulf which made him Professor Tolkien, The Monsters and the Critics. And it's his translation of that great Old English poem and his commentary. And I've got several editions of Beowulf. I must have 4 or 5, and I do love it. And I am interested in early writing of that sort and its usage as the sort of taproot of fantasy writing. And I think more people who read fantasy, whether it's high fantasy like Tolkien or the sort of heroic or anti-heroic stuff, sword and sorcery, Moorcock, Vance, Lieber, Poole Anderson, and all their copyists that we've had to put up with since the late 70s. I really think people should read this stuff because it's important, it's very beautiful, and it's very, very important for understanding the Western tradition, North European literature, and the Western tradition. So we'll just get the slip off, and there's the prospectus there on the back, and it tells you all about the work itself. There we are. We'll just slip that to one side, and lovely purple gilt dragon there. And of course there's a dragon in Beowulf. I mean, all the symbols that we know in high fantasy and sword and sorcery pretty much come from Beowulf and the Norse myths. And of course Beowulf is set in Sweden and Denmark. Now there's actually a, not too happy with that, there's a little bit of printer's glue on there. I managed to get that off, which is great. And that's gilt embossed, quarter bound. It's not cloth. It is quite basic binding, really. It's not that special, and I do think these are quite expensive for what they are, but I wanted a hardcover. There you go, and Tolkien's own illustration there. And of course in Beowulf you get the story of Grendel the fiend, who is sort of wreaking havoc upon a settlement. And Beowulf comes from across the sea. He's got a sword with a name, later fights a dragon. He copes with Beowulf's, he copes with Grendel's mother, not Beowulf's mother, with Grendel's mother. And, you know, Beowulf is depicted as a troll in some adaptations and what have you. The first one I read, he was described as a fiend, which I've always thought was great, and that's really nice. So I'd say this isn't just Beowulf because it's quite short. There's lots of other stuff, Tolkien's work on the poem, which I'm really looking forward to reading, because of course Tolkien was a philologist, an expert in languages, and used to make up languages. That was the whole of his base for things like the Silmarillion, really, and Lord of the Rings, and the whole Middle Earth jam. But that's really nice. So I've wanted a hardcover Beowulf for a while, so I thought, why not go for the Tolkien one? And there it is. So very, very nice. This retails for £75. I must say, I think it's overpriced. It does have a silk ribbon marker in there, which is grey. There it is. But I do think that's rather pricey myself. I would have much preferred a standard trade edition with a jacket, which is quite pretty design, but it's out of print, and you can't find decent second-hand ones anywhere. So there we go. So I went for that because I thought I want a hardcover Beowulf, and that's it. So that's kind of my Middle-earth epiphany. I will show you quickly. You know, you'll have seen this elsewhere, I'm sure, but it's just so unlike me to have a Tolkien epiphany. So I got this a while ago. As I say, this is the facsimile of the first edition with the original text before it was rewritten. Tolkien's map there, and there we go. And that's green embossed cloth, which is really, really nice. And it's got George Allen Unwin, so that's a really nice facsimile. They've done a great job on the flap. You know, there's nothing on there to suggest that it is a later printing. Obviously it is. And when you look inside, obviously on the printing history, you know, HarperCollins, what have you. So there you go. And sprayed text block in green at the top. So that's just like the original, and nice little box. There's a prospectus as well. The old slipcase, pop that in there. So that's kind of my Tolkien epiphany. And the question is now, am I going to go on and get more Tolkien? Probably not. I will probably get the one in this series, which is pictures from the Lord of the Rings, because that's really, really nice, and so I love his artwork. And I might get Unfinished Tales with this picture on it, because that's quite handsome as well, because I think that might be quite interesting background reading. But it is the history of the publication and the phenomena and its iconography and the artworks which really interest me the most. So there we go. So that's Beowulf unboxing and the Treasury unboxing, and I guess now I can sit down and read them and enjoy them. So this is Outlaw Bookseller. Please like, comment, subscribe, super thanks. I've heard a lot from Tolkien fans about those sort of limited editions, are they or not. It's been great to talk about the detail and what have you. Even a bookselling expert like me wants to hear from you, wants to hear about your view on all these things and feeding it back to the publishers. So yeah, there we go. Bye for now.